Hi everyone and welcome back to the Reef Life with myself, Dutch Reefer. So today's video will be about one of the questions that Queen City Reefs asked in the comments of my last video, and it will be about daily maintenance and also weekly and bi-weekly maintenance. So the question was, what do I do to keep the tank in shape and to do the regular maintenance on the tank? And of course, I'm more than willing to tell you that. So let's start off with daily and then slowly move up to what I do weekly or bi-weekly or even monthly. So daily, there's only one thing I do every day, and that is I try to keep the glass clean. So for that, I'm using a flipper. As you can see right here, it's the Flipper Max Float. I have used different brands before, but this one does the trick very well. The blade on the front is pretty easy to replace, and overall it just takes up a large portion of the glass at once, so it's very easy to use. As you can see, it just takes off a load of dirt at the same time. And the beautiful thing is that it floats, so it's very easy to catch it when you by accident release it. You can just put the float back on it and then it reattaches. So very happy to use this one. You do have to be careful, but that's with every magnet. You have to be careful not to touch the sides of the glass too much. As you can see, the edges get damaged easily, so you want them to be like this. But unfortunately, it easily turns into like this. And luckily, in the new version of the Reefer, Red Sea have included a nice corner piece made out of plastics to reinforce the corners. But if you don't have that, you quite easily chip away the glue that's keeping your tank together. So be careful with that. If you're using a magnet blade. So yeah, that's one of the things that I do daily. Of course, I do check everything in the reef if everything is looking healthy. What I usually also do is I use this turkey baster to, I'll show you in a minute, this one. Whenever there's gunk on the rock somewhere, or I see some algae build up, then I'll use this turkey baster to remove that. So that's very easy to use and also good to keep the tank in good health. So yeah, that's kind of the daily things that I do to keep the tank in shape. Then of course there's also things that I do every other few days, like adding new water to the backup tank. So that's this one, the reef can, and I use this one to refill it. It's a very easy to use thing that I got about 2 years ago. It's easy to refill. I have my own reverse osmosis unit to make the water, and then it's easy to refill that way. Then, of course, there's the bi-weekly or even monthly maintenance, and that's more about keeping the water quality in check. I do add some Balling-based fluids to the tank, so that's calcium, alkalinity, and magnesium. But of course, doing a water change now and then doesn't hurt. So I try to do a, let's see, 5% water change every 2 weeks, approximately, not too much. And I use this jerry can for that you can see right here. I usually fill that up with reverse osmosis water, mix it with salt, this salt right here. So per reef salt is what I'm currently using. It's by, I think it's a Dutch brand, Colombo. The reason I'm using this brand is because it's pretty natural, based on the values of the salt. So the alkalinity will be around 9, calcium around 420, and the magnesium around 1370. I mean, because I'm adding stuff anyway, I don't need my salt to be very rich. Of course, if you are dosing less or using a different method, then using a salt that has more additives to it can be beneficial. But for my tank, I like to keep it natural. so that I can change everything else myself as I please. Sometimes I want the magnesium to be a bit higher, then I can add it myself instead of relying on the magnesium values of my salt. Yeah, so that comes in very handy. So yeah, that's, I think, the basic things that I do to keep my tank in check. What I also do, but it's more infrequently based on when it's needed, I try to keep the sand moving. Of course, I have some sand sifting starfish in the tank. I think there's 2 in here right now, or at least 1. I've seen at least 1 recently. There used to be 2, so maybe there's even 2. There's also a type of sea urchin in here called a sea mouse in Dutch. I've shared a picture before on my Instagram, so if you want to check that out. That's a creature that also keeps the sand clean, but that doesn't always work perfectly. So as you can see, there's some green cyano here right now. Not too much. I think this is built up from like a week, but definitely something that I like to keep in check. So whenever it gets too much, I use the same turkey baster that I've shown you before, just to ruffle up the sand a bit and to make sure that it gets moving. Because yeah, in high flow areas that won't be much of an issue, as you can see, but on the more difficult to reach places for current, for flow, there the buildup is a bit more, so that you can see right here. So yeah, that's something I do additionally, just to keep the tank looking nice overall. So as you can see from a distance, you don't notice it as much, but if you look up close, then it's definitely there. Of course, that's also a balance thing. So yeah, it's all it's based on preference, but I like to keep the sand as clean as possible. So I clean a lot. When doing a water change, I also tend to take out a bit of the sand. So I siphon out the sand with water, of course, but my main focus is on the top layer of the sand. I siphon that out. I clean it with tank water. So whenever you're cleaning your sand and you want to add it back to the tank, don't use fresh water, but definitely use either salty water that you just made, seawater that you just made, or use water from the tank to clean it. Because whenever you're adding it right back, you want those bacteria to be there. You don't want any nitrates or phosphates to build up accidentally. So be sure to rinse your sand with salt water or seawater. So yeah, that's on the maintenance of the display tank. Then of course there's the maintenance of the sump area, which is of course related to the main tank, but has a different regimen. I try of course to keep these canisters filled up. So as you can see, you cannot really see, but because it's pretty filled up in here, the magnesium needs to be filled up again. That I'll do today. So that's one of the things that I need to do. Of course, change out the filter mats every now and then. As you can see, this one is already reaching its end in I think 1 more week. And there's 3, 4, 5 weeks worth of gunk right in the back there. I think even more, maybe 8 weeks. Clean the skimmer, of course. The skimmer cup, it tends to fill up, no, not too quickly, but you also want the neck to be relatively clean. So as you can see right now, I have emptied the cup quite a few times. I think 3 or 4 times in the past 2 weeks. But I need to clean it again, because as you can see, there's now gunk building up in the neck of the skimmer, reducing the overall effectiveness of the skimmer as a whole. So that's something, of course, that I keep an eye on. But as you can see, it's still foaming pretty nicely. So not too worried yet, but definitely good to keep this one clean. It's a Nyos Quantum, by the way. Very pleased with it. It doesn't make a lot of noise. In my previous video I turned it off, but this time I left it on so you can hear it. It's pretty silent as far as skimmers go. So I'm very pleased at how it performs. Then what I don't do a lot, I think maybe once a year, is clean up the bottom of the sump. So as you can see, I haven't cleaned this in quite a while. So there's kind of build up from all kind of detritus on the bottom right here as well. There's some pieces of live rock that I once put in here. They're still here, and some old coral skeletons. But yeah, this needs to be cleaned as well, like once or twice every year, just to keep the overall tank pretty and neat and tidy. Then these Maxspect blocks and balls that are in here need replacement as well. I haven't replaced them since I booted up the tank. You need to replace them, I think, once every 12 to 18 months. So next month the tank will be running for a year. So I need to start thinking about replacing these as well to keep the biomedia to its full potential and not let it get saturated to a point where it starts being harmful instead of beneficial to the tank. So that's about as far as cleaning the sump area goes. So I think overall that's quite a quick roundup of how I try to keep my tank tidy, clean, and stable. Because of course, as you all know, keeping your reef tank stable is the most important thing you can do to keep your tank in good health. Stability is key. Every instability that you introduce might harm your corals or your fish, or turn for the worst over a longer period of time. So yeah, I try to keep my regimen as neat and planned as possible. Of course, there's always things where you think, I should have done that earlier, like replacing your carbon, because I'm running a bit of carbon underneath the filter mat, the ReefMat, that needs to be replaced every 3-4 months. So that's due for replacement. Easy to forget, but very important to remember, because yeah, you want to keep this tank as stable as possible. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments if you like to know more information about one of the things that I mentioned, or maybe you have a question about things that I haven't mentioned at all that you're asking yourself. So feel free to ask. Always here and happy to answer your questions. But for now, that's it, and I'll see you in next week's video. Bye bye.